Hi everyone, welcome to Tiny Barn Farm. Thank you for watching today. I wanted to give you a bit of an update on the fox family that we had living under this building a few weeks back. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to watch it, but we did 3 videos on the fox family. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster. It started off with a lot of excitement, and then there was some tragedy that took place, and then finally we were presented with a bit of hope at the end, and I wanted to give you an update on what happened. There were 2 baby foxes that we were able to rescue after they were orphaned by their parents. The mother fox disappeared mysteriously, and the father fox got a pretty bad case of mange. And he was around but wasn't caring for the baby foxes. So unfortunately, 4 of the foxes didn't make it, which was really, really heartbreaking for us, and I'm sure for the papa fox, Miles. And we had rescued 2. One of them we were able to rescue quite easily because that little fox was quite kind of in bad shape, dehydrated, and it was actually quite easy to just pick up. I always wear gloves when handling the foxes, but I was able to just pick him up and take him to the house and attempt to care for him overnight, so that I could take him to the wildlife sanctuary in the morning when they were open. So we were able to essentially keep him alive overnight, and we took him to the wildlife sanctuary. And then I had followed up on him a day later just to see if he survived, or he or she survived, and if there was any news on how the little one was doing. I did get an email back a couple days later. They're very busy this time of year with lots and lots of babies orphaned by their parents. It does happen. I mean, adult foxes, lots of things. There's a lot of predators around, and there's a lot of things that can happen, disease and whatnot. I did get news back from Aspen Wildlife Sanctuary in Rosso, Ontario, that took the fox in. And I did get, unfortunately, bad news. The little baby fox didn't make it. We knew that there was a good chance that the little one wasn't going to make it. He was in pretty rough shape. I mean, we had a little bit of hope because he started walking around the little tote that I had him in when I took him to the sanctuary, but unfortunately, I think he was just too far gone. I have a bit of a theory that it's possible that the majority of the baby foxes were ill. I mean, the father had mange, so I don't know if most of the kits were sick already and then perhaps abandoned by the parents. We're not sure. We don't know. So we were really, really sad to hear that. I was just totally heartbroken. But that's the way it goes sometimes, unfortunately. We were able, in episode 3, or part 3 of the Fox series, I go through all the details of trying to live trap the final fox kit that was living under the tiny barn all by himself. This little fox kit was amazingly healthy in comparison to the other ones. He was like puffy and like fluffy and very active. He would just, if I would come around the corner, he would just bound back into the fox burrow. Like he just seemed like he was just doing a lot better. So it was a bit of a challenge to lure him out of the den. We knew that if we left him, he wouldn't have survived. There was no one to take care of him. He was highly susceptible to predators. I mean, we have hawks and bald eagles and coyotes and all kinds of predators that could get a baby fox very easily. And I imagine if he was here living by himself for much longer than a day or so, or a couple days, he would have been able to, he would have eventually ventured out and he would have been caught by something. So we knew that time was of the essence to get him rescued, so that he could go into to the sanctuary, and they could eventually release them once they're old enough to survive on their own. We really want them learning from other foxes so they know how to live in the wild. The last thing we wanted was this little baby fox to become domesticated. It was a couple of days before we were able to get him into the live trap, but we did eventually, which was, oh, it was such a relief. I just felt like, you know, this little one isn't going to survive if we leave him. So we were able to live trap him.
Oh, there you are, sweetheart. Don't worry. We're going to get you inside nice and warm. You're so beautiful. Okay. So good. You're so good. All right, sweet, let's get you inside.
He looked great, you know. I was amazed at just his face looked a little different than a sibling. Like he just had this like look in his eye somehow. I think he kind of liked having his own place, to be honest. But I did drive him to the wildlife sanctuary, and I did follow up on his progress a few days later. I was so hesitant because I just was so heartbroken from the first one, and I just did not want to hear bad news. But then, of course, I couldn't help myself. I had to know either way how he was doing, if he was a he or a she, and just to know if he survived or not. And I got an email from the lovely woman at the wildlife sanctuary, and it was really good news. She said that he was doing just fine. He made a friend with another baby fox, and they really like each other. And I burst into tears. I was so overwhelmed with joy to know that we were able to save this little one. And I felt like, I don't know, it's like we did something right. And it was, I tried to learn as much as I could to not kind of negatively affect his chances. Like I wore gloves. I wanted to make sure he didn't have any contact with me, physical contact, even though I was so tempted to just pet him because he was just like this little cute fuzzball, but I didn't. I resisted that temptation, and I felt like we just, I don't know, it's like there was success there in taking him to a place where he got really good care. He's getting really good care.
We are almost there. We're like 1 minute away. I just wanted to wish you all the luck. I'm going to be following up on your progress and see how you're doing, and hopefully they can reunite you with your sibling. Apparently there's a lot of fox kids there, so you can have lots of friends. Yeah. All right, here we go.
When I filled out the application or the form, because you fill out a form so they have your contact information, I did indicate that we would be interested in having him released here once he's ready. I'm not sure if that'll happen. I don't know what their protocol is and how they make those decisions, but I would just love the idea of having him back in this area. We are in farm country, so there's always risk with foxes. I mean, foxes can be quite predatory to people's chickens and livestock. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I hear anything, and I'm just thrilled to know that he's doing well, and he's a boy, officially been confirmed, and yeah, so that's really good news. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, I learned a lot about foxes. I mean, they're pretty fascinating animals. I didn't know much, admittedly, when we first spotted the fox. I had very little knowledge about foxes. I was surprised to see that they raise their young together. I was surprised to see 2 foxes together under the den. I didn't realize that sometimes they mate for life, which is really sweet. So yeah, they were here together raising their little ones until things took a turn. But that's what life is, I suppose, and wildlife is unpredictable. And also I learned that they actually tend to raise their young around humans. So it's not unusual to see foxes creating dens in a backyard, in a suburban backyard, or somewhat near humans. And the reason they do that is if there are larger predators around, and which we have them here, like coyotes, wolves, fox kits are very susceptible to predation. So the adult foxes tend to be more around humans because those predators won't be present, which is really fascinating. So the foxes knew we were here. I mean, we kept our distance, and we even set up a wildlife camera, but it was a little bit farther away from the den, just so we wouldn't disturb them or scare them off. But they purposely put their dens near human beings, which was pretty neat. Even though they're afraid of us, of course, we didn't try to approach them or anything. We wanted them to remain wild. We certainly don't want them to get used to us, used to human interaction. So we definitely kept our distance. But that was a really interesting fact about foxes. We learned about what they eat. I mean, we in the wildlife camera, we captured some footage with them hunting at night, and they would come back with voles and, you know, lots of little rodents. That's kind of their main diet, and we have plenty around here. The nice thing about having them creating their den under the barn was that they kept it mouse free. Like there are no mice or any rodents anywhere around this barn because they just would eat everything around it. So that's actually a benefit to having foxes nearby, because they'll take care of the rodent problem. I mean, we have tons of field mice. When we used to live here, we lived in this building for 5 months a couple years ago when we were building our home. And we had a cat at the time, Peanut, and she would be hunting constantly around here. So yeah, she was well fed. And so were the foxes, apparently. But there's a few resources that I'm going to leave in the show notes. If anybody out there, if you ever find yourself in this situation, when I was researching wildlife rescues, there's an Ontario-wide website on the different wildlife rescues across Ontario. I'm sure there's a Canada-wide resource as well, or they would have it province specific to what province you're in or country. Yeah, so you can, and there's also a Facebook group. It's called Critter Cab. So if you're unable to perhaps drive a rescued animal to a wildlife rescue, they actually have a volunteer service where you can find someone in your area that will drive the animal for you, which was interesting. But some things to look for when you're rescuing wildlife is to really ensure that they need rescuing. The only reason we even attempted to rescue the baby foxes is because we knew for a fact that they were not being cared for. I mean, obviously through the losses of some of the fox kits, we knew that they were indeed orphaned and weren't being fed and cared for by their parent. We knew that the mother fox wasn't around, and we learned all this by having a wildlife camera set up to really observe what was going on. I mean, terrible things can happen really quickly, but at the same time, we didn't want to be rescuing baby foxes not knowing whether or not the parents were around, because sometimes they're outside playing and the parents are out hunting. So we definitely wanted to make sure that that was a fact. So we feel good that we were able to confirm that before we attempted to do any rescuing. So that's something to keep in mind, definitely. And that's for any animal, like birds and all kinds of things. Sometimes you can see a baby animal in distress and you don't really realize that actually the parents are around. They're just hunting. So you don't want to be taking their babies away unnecessarily. So I wanted to thank you all so much for watching. And we've got many, many more wildlife sightings coming up. I'm sure we're always interacting, all kinds of interesting things on the farm. And Miles, you're coming to say hi. Yeah, you want to go in the barn. You kind of miss living here? You loved living here. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time at Tiny Barn Farm. Right?